Welcome to thinking. And I want to make sure that you don't get this wrong. This is about thinking, not about the mind. Although it is the mind that's thinking, this is about thinking. So, if you ever seen that you can overthink, I am that person. I can overthink. I can start going with a certain direction, and then it will accumulate more and more thoughts, and just now I get to a point where I go, hey, I am overthinking this completely. So that's not what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about the ability to think, the ability to use the mind and think about things that will make a difference in your life. So we all know there are different types of thinking. So lateral thinking, I think it was de Bono that coined that topic. Lateral thinking is to think wider. Is not to only look at one option, but at different options. Optional thinking. I'm a great lover of the TV series Suits, and I think Harvey Spencer says in there, if somebody puts a gun against your head, what are you going to do? And then he says, you've got options. Think. You've got options. And whenever you are going into optional thinking, it means that you are exploring the different options. Now, remember, to be able to do this type of thinking, you need to suspend the ego, definitely. Because the ego is going to say to you, I like this and I understand this, I'm going to go with this. But optional thinking says there are more options. Then creative thinking. We spoke about that in my Back Yourself program, how important it is to be creative. To go and draw, to go and play with children, to go and do a pottery class, to write creatively. Because once you decide to use creative thinking, you've got more options. Next one, scenario thinking. I think in South Africa, the guy with the name of Clem Santner had that scenario planning, those different scenarios, the high road and the low road. These are the important things to train the mind to be used in a specific way. Remember, this is a tool. Thinking is a most wonderful ability. Listen to this. You can go back to your very first thought. What was it? I'm asking you. Think back. As a child, what was your very first thought you can remember? That is the ability of thinking. You can also think forward. You can say to yourself, what scenarios do I see in my future? We are the only species on this planet that can do that. It's because we have the gift of thinking. In my days that I was lecturing, I used to say to the students all the time, all I ask of you is to think. When you get that question, when you get that problem, sit down and ask yourself, what are my options? Think laterally. Go back into your head when you studied it. Look at the work in your mind. That's part of the thinking. Remember, as you suspend the ego, thinking becomes easier. Ask yourself, what are the alternatives? Yes. This is not the only alternative. And I promise you, when you dead in the corner and you don't think you can go anywhere and you think this is the ultimate, this is it, this is my reality, think. There are more options. Next one that I will say that you should do. What am I not seeing? Very important. What am I not seeing? I may be focused on something and thinking in a specific direction or in a specific way, but losing out because I've got a blind spot. In my promos, I use this little card to say, what is the color of the card? Red. Yes, I know it's red. But what other options are there than red? You see, for me, there's the option of white. For you, there's the option of red now. So when you are locked in a specific way of thinking, you got to allow your perspective to change. You got to allow people to give you information and you to find information to change your perspective. So once the mind is locked, it doesn't want to change. I also did the following. I did the peanut. I said, what if I tell you I've got something in my hand that I've never seen before? And nobody that I've bought it has ever seen it before. And nobody on the planet has ever seen it before. And then I broke the peanuts open to say that the two peanuts inside, nobody has ever seen before. But I did it to show you that somewhere in this mind, once it is focused on how can you have something in your pocket that you've never seen before? How can somebody at the shop has not seen it before? It's impossible. Once the mind is locked on that, the thinking becomes rigid. Here's the thing. Whenever you face any situation, please tell yourself that there are options. There are different ways to look at this. Ask yourself, how do I have to change? What do I have to change in my thinking so that I can have better options? Don't get locked in too quickly. Allow yourself the freedom to think. The mind, they say, works best when left alone. So when you are overthinking and it's very hectic in here, leave this thing alone. Let it calm itself, like water. When water is muddy, you can't straighten it out with a piece of iron, nothing. You need to leave it to calm down. When it calms down, it gives you better options. I'm telling you, one of the most powerful things you've got is your ability to think, your ability to have options. Use it. Do the courses on mind power and whatever you want to do to get this thing to be able to think and serve you. I know they say the mind has got a mind of its own, but through the right and the correct way of thinking, you take control of that. And when you take control of your mind and you implement different ways of thinking, you've got more options and you are creating more opportunities. So, think, take the time and think. There's much more in your head that you can ever imagine. Use it powerfully.